longevity lifestyle designers. This is Zach here with secretsoflongevity.com, and I'm about to do an Elixir recipe video. I've not done one for a while, so I'm excited to do this one today. Starting with the Vitamix blender, I'm going to add a little bit more than 2 cups of milk, maybe 2.5. This is raw Guernsey cow milk, organic, grass-fed. Actually, probably just a little over 2 cups there. And if you haven't seen my over 1 hour video on raw dairy and its benefits, and how it's actually very different from factory farm, grain-fed, Holstein dairy, then you're going to have to check that out at the end of the video. I'll post the link so you can check that out if you haven't watched that yet. If you're kind of like on the fence of whether you think dairy is healthy or not, definitely check that out, because there's a lot of factors that make up really any type of food, whether it's healthy or not. So this sort of blanket statement that there's a lot of propaganda out there saying dairy is unhealthy, which has been sort of almost a very mainstream idea now because of dairy sensitivities, and those definitely do exist. But definitely check out the video I've done on raw milk if you want to learn more about that and raw dairy products in general. Next, we're going to add about a tablespoon of raw butter, again from the same source as my milk. And as you can see, we're getting the cows aren't really eating grass yet, probably just starting to, and this butter's a week old. So it's still very much more yellow than you would get in your typical butter that you'd find in a grocery store. You'd get very white butter, which is because the cows are eating grains, but when they're eating beta-carotene rich greens and grass and weeds, it's got a very vibrant yellow color, so it's going to get even more yellow than that as time goes on through the year, or at least through the summer. And of course, when it's winter time, they're going to be getting more hay, which is fantastic and much better than a high grain diet for a cow, but it's going to be less nutrient dense than the spring fast growing grass. And that's really the peak time that you want to, if you have access to it, you want to load up on a lot of butter, keep it in your freezer to last you through the year if you have that option available. I mean, a lot of small farms won't be able to give you all that much, but getting as much as you can get your hands on is a good idea if you want to get the most nutrient dense, most fat soluble dense, most tooth healing and bone healing properties of the butter at that special time of year. Next thing we're going to add in is 1 tablespoon of chia seed. I don't want to go overboard in density of what I'm putting in this drink. So just 1 with that amount of liquid is going to be good, otherwise it's going to get a little too thick. Next we're going to put in some frozen blueberries, and I don't think I need to list off the benefits of the blueberries, but they're very strong, powerful antioxidants. These are wild blueberries, frozen from my health food store. Probably put about 1/3 of a cup in there. Probably the only fruit I'm really eating with much consistency. It's a very fantastic superfood, you can call that. High in vitamin C, high in antioxidants, like I mentioned, many other phytochemicals that are good for brain health, eye health, circulatory system health, and a great addition to any sort of North American diet. I think I'm really big on eating local too, and we got a lot of blueberries in our area. Next, I'm going to add some Guanwood reishi extract from Hyperion Herbs. This is I've gotten a little bit of oxygen mixed into this and moisture, so it's kind of clumped up. But this is dual extraction reishi. You can get it at the links below. So I added about a teaspoon of that. I'm going to add a teaspoon each of Hoshu and Mucunia as well, which are also available at Hyperion Herbs. So reishi is a fantastic Shen tonic herb, which is going along with the theme of this drink being chocolate magical Pixie Elixir. And if I can actually get this bag open, I can then add this to the drink, and I'll tell you about the properties of Mucunia as I'm putting in. It's very high in L-Dopa, which is a precursor to dopamine. Gives a very nice lift without any after negative effects to dopamine coming down. But it's a good way of boosting dopamine levels and also giving them a lift if it's something that you've been deficient in. But it's, again, like I said, it's tonic herb. It's not going to have the negative side effects like a drug would, where you're going to have that crash afterwards. If you stop using Mucunia, it's not like you crash. You've kind of like created this, altered your brain's ability to create dopamine. And so it is an herb you can use consistently, but I do like to cycle it just like any other herb. And it has a variety of other benefits which I've listed on an article I've written on my site below. So again, in the links below you can find sources for these herbs and foods I'm adding to my drink, and then you can also find articles I've written on anything that I'm adding here that I happen to have already written an article on. And of course we've got to add the Hoshi Wu, very high in zinc, very high in lecithin, many other good properties, iron. We're adding a teaspoon of that extract as well from Hyperion herbs. And that's a yin Jing tonic herb, whereas Mukunya would be more of a yang Jing tonic, and Reishi's more of a Shen tonic. Actually, Mukunya would have Shen type properties as well. So we're having a sort of very wide spectrum effect on the whole energetic system. I'm going to add some kelp powder for the, I'm just adding that into everything this time of year just because of the radiation problems going on in Japan, and making their way over here slowly but surely. And so that was about maybe an eighth of a teaspoon, if not less. Trying to get that into every meal of the day. We're going to add some colostrum from Surthrival. Very intense properties to this as well, fantastic for you. I'm going to add a teaspoon of that. Check out the article I've written on that if you want to learn all the properties of that, because it is, again, another complex thing that has a myriad of health benefits that are very well researched and established. There's a lot of naysayers out there on the benefits of colostrum. I don't know what about it is that people have such a backlash against, but you know, you really just have to search on PubMed colostrum, or colostrum for human consumption, or bovine colostrum, and see the effects it has in the human trials, and it's like, you know, there's nothing negative in the scientific literature being said about it, so a lot of these people making these radical claims like it doesn't, it feeds cancer is just ridiculous, because, you know, if that was the case, we'd actually see that. You can't take an isolated compound, hormone, or nutrient and claim that it's going to have that effect from the food. So the IGF-1 boosting qualities in colostrum aren't going to be feeding the cancer like, you know, isolated synthetic IGF-1 or even steroids would. Next we're going to add about an eighth of a teaspoon, or rather a quarter teaspoon of Shilajit powder. This is pretty intense, so we don't want to overdo this for sure, but it's got properties that enhance the absorption of all the other things we're putting in here, and it's also got some great minerals. Fulvic acid. Just added half a teaspoon in there. And to really make this drink magical, we're going to add some cacao powder. Definitely goes amazing with milk. If you've never had, or it's been a while since you've had real chocolate milk with raw milk, highly recommend it with some raw cacao powder. I'm going to add a heaping tablespoon of that. Don't like to go overboard on it too much nowadays. I'd mostly do about a tablespoon or a heaping tablespoon per day, and go through long periods without doing it even, because it does definitely have a bit of, depending on your constitution, it can be a little bit off-balancing for some. For 3 years I was doing very high amounts of it without a problem, and then all of a sudden I started noticing it was causing me problems, so I tapered that off of it, left it for like several months, not touching it, adding it back in small amounts, taking it away, adding it back in. And it's really where I'm at right now. It's not really being too finicky about not ever taking it, but when I do take it, I enjoy it, and if I have the slightest feeling that it might not be doing the best things for me, I just simply stop it again. And that's really what you have to do intuitively once you're familiar with your own internal messages with every food you take, with every herb, with every thing you take into your body, and every lifestyle practice. You want to be really intuitive and aware and tapped into how it's affecting you and whether it is the right thing to be doing. There's very few things we could say is blanket statement that's best for everyone. Like, of course, breathing and deep breathing is good for everyone. Drinking water is good for everyone. But certain types of breathing exercises aren't going to be the best for everyone. Certain types of and amounts of drinking water isn't going to be the best for everyone. And same with, again, with food, it can get a little more complex, and it's very important to just keep that in mind. And especially if you're an educator on the topic, you don't want to be saying everyone should be eating this one thing as their main staple food. It's a bit extreme. If you were to have the opportunity to get that kind of diet to a lot of people, you're going to find a lot of people aren't going to succeed on that long term. You might try to create reasons in your mind as to why that might not be. We're going to add about half a tablespoon of mesquite powder, high in lysine, very fragrant, lovely superfood to work with, and goes great in these drinks. The wood of the mesquite tree, which is different, this is the powdered pod, the fruit of it, but the wood is often used in furniture making, but also they burn it to give steak and other meats that you cook on a grill, the flavor of the mesquite wood, which is something I'd be interested in trying someday. We're adding a bit of stevia in here next, just to give it a bit of zero glycemic sweetness. And for our final and most spectacular ingredient, we're going to add 1 teaspoon of the only raw or certified organic royal jelly I've ever seen available on the market. It's a powder, and I had a chance to try this earlier today, and it's extremely potent. 3 times more potent than other royal jellies on the market, from what I understand. The certain compounds in it that they use to sort of rate the strength of the most beneficial compounds that people consume royal jelly for. It's generally 3 times stronger than other brands. So we're adding a full teaspoon of that in there, really giving this a powerful kick to this drink. When I took it earlier just on its own, it was really intense flavor, quite enjoyable, but it's not going to be everyone's favorite thing to do if they're not used to really strong things, such as strong bitter herbs. Definitely has that quality of being almost medicinal-like when you take it. So if you want to check this out, check out immortalityalchemy.com, and that's one of the products they sell on there. It's a very, very high-quality product. A lot of people are recommending it as probably the best royal jelly product to get if you're wanting to try that. So with that, we're going to put it onto the blending power base, and the chia seeds are really going to have a good effect of helping suspend all these powders within the liquid. If we were just doing all those powders into like water or spring water, tea, or even milk, but without things like the butter, the chia seed, the blueberries, it's going to be basically sinking to the bottom in a very short period of time. So the other coarser ingredients are good to help keep that suspended throughout that. And yeah, we're going to blend that up now. Show you how long that actually lasts. So I can definitely feel its nice thick color. The blueberries and the cacao give it like a purpley brown color, a beautiful hue. Let's grab a jar to put this into. Give it a taste. Oh my goodness, it's beautiful. Definitely magical looking at Pixie-like. I'll get the rest of that later. Oh my, that is just exquisite. Definitely check out some of these things if you've never used them before. Links below. Let me know what you think of the recipe, if you've done something similar or ever used royal jelly, what your experiences have been with it, positive or negative. It's definitely a big fan of bee products. I use bee pollen very often, but royal jelly is something I haven't used very consistently, so it's going to be an interesting experiment with that jar I just got. So with that, take care and embrace life without limits.